Welcome to Rails Evolution 18xx. This is an explainer video about the game 1870 that plays in the Mississippi area of the southern USA. I expect that you know already the outlines of 18xx games and come here to learn about 1870 specifically. Let's start with the start packet. We got 6 private papers that are auctioned in the same way as in 1830, with one exception. We have the GRSC, Great River Shipping Company, with a revenue of 5 with no special ability, which sorts here as a blocker. The Bridge, Mississippi River Bridge Company, with a revenue of 10. Before this private is sold into one of the major companies, no company is allowed to cross the Mississippi hex. If it's bought into a company, this company can immediately lay one extra tile and pays $40 less. Also important to note is that this is the only private that can be sold or bought by a company in phase 1. All of the others, as usual, only when the 3 train is bought. The Southern Cattle Company has a revenue of 10. It provides a cattle token that can be laid by any company west of the Mississippi on any city, and then increases the value of the city by 10, but only for the owner. It start of the phase 5 when the 5 train is bought. The Gulf Shipping Company with a revenue of 15. It provides 2 tokens for choice. One is the open port and the other one is the closed port. The open port gives a 20 plus revenue for the owner and 10 for everybody else that goes there. The closed port only gives 20 for the owner, but it closes at the start of 5. The SLSF is a 20% director share of a major company, with the speciality that this company is already running at 20% and is open and is able to operate. Finally, the MKT, the Missouri, Kansas, Texas Railroad, with a revenue of 20, buys a 10% share of the Katy company, and it closes when the Katy company buys their first train. The operating round runs as usual in 1830, so you can either buy the first paper from top or bid on any of the following papers, and when the first paper is bought, then the bidding will continue of all of the companies that have at least 2 bids. The only difference from 1830 here is that if everybody passes, all of the base prices are reduced by 5. Next, connection runs. Every major company, has a home station and has also got a destination station. As soon as the company has reached its destination station and can run one of its trains to that destination, then a immediate additional round triggers. That's the connection run. So for example, the KT has a 5 train and it can run a 5 train from up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a connection run would be triggered, and that means that the same run will be run again. That is a little bit more interesting, because the connection run has to run from the home station to the connection station, and at that time every other train that the company has, of course, can also run. The owner, the president, can decide to withhold or to pay out that revenue, but it cannot be half paid. MP, ATSF, very close to KT, SP, horizontal, GMO, SLSF, TP, FW, SSW, and IC. Now let's look at the real game situation. Here we are in the early brown phase. The MP, the question is the company that we're looking at. The MP has its home station up here, and it needs to get to its destination down there. And it can do so with a 1, 2, 3, 4 train. At the moment it has a 3 train, and it just bought a 5 train from the bank. So if it finishes its round, the MP will get a notice that it can now do its destination run, its connection run, and at that time it gets the choice to lay an extra marker onto the destination hex. This marker then pays double. So that would be, in this case, a 50 city is worth 100, but only for the MP. It can also choose to withhold this marker, and then it can lay this marker extra later, but it doesn't count double. The connection run, of course, also affects the share value. By paying out twice, it would go twice to the right. Note that the money can also be withheld. There are several ways how a connection run can be triggered. First is if the company has a train that is long enough and built its own track. Secondly, in the train buying phase, it buys the train that allows to do the connection run. And thirdly, if another company builds the track, then the company is forced to do the connection run nevertheless. Now let's come to the share round. Here we are in an early game situation, and there are a few really unique rules in 1870 that distinguishes it from most other games. The first of these is that companies can buy their own shares. This is called redemption, and it is indicated by buttons down here in the status window. So at the moment it's Alice's turn, and she is obviously the president of the MP. The MP can redeem a share. That means it buys a share from the pool or one of the players. If there is a share in the pool, it has to come from the pool. If it is no shares in the pool, then it will come from the director. So it would pay for the share, the current market value, and then the share would go into the treasury. Why do you want to do that? Because in future rounds, this share can also be reissued. I have jumped one round to the next stop round to illustrate this. It's Alice's turn again, and the MP has still the 10% in the treasury. It can now choose to reissue this paper, which means it will go into the IPO again, and the value, the IPO value of that share is 2/3 of the current pool value, or the minimum of its issue value. So in that case it was 68. Why is that interesting? Because this paper now can be bought again by other players, and so the company basically creates more income for itself, because when it has the share in the treasury, the income that the company will generate will go into the cash, And when the share is bought from the IPO, that money, of course, also goes back into the company. Reissuing papers is only possible if there is nothing in the IPO. However, redeeming can be done at any time as long as there are 60% in total between players. The next and probably the biggest change in the stock round is that players, president of a company, what's the MP here, of which Alice is the director, can protect shares that are sold. So if Charlie chooses to share the 10% share of the MP, Alice will immediately be asked out of the round if she wants to protect or decline the protection. If she declines the protection, Charlie can carry on with his round. But going back, if she protects the share, then the 10% do not drop into the pool but go straight to Alice. And the important thing is that the share value also does not change. In this way, Alice can get over 60% of the share, in theory up to 100% of the shares of a company. More important rules from the stock market, as in the stock chart. We have the normal stock chart. In yellow, these shares do not count to the certificate limit. In green, a owner can buy more than 60% of the share. And in brown, as usual, a president can buy more than one share of a company as well. But additionally, we got this zero corner down here, and a company that drops into the zero, either because it's sold or it withholds its revenue, will immediately close. Note that this company does not need to buy a train before closing. Another noteworthy thing, of course, is this red ledge. This protects the share values of companies. A company will go on top of this red ledge as if it is the bottom, but it can break through from top to bottom if more than one share is sold at the same time. So example, if a company sits on 100, you will have to sell 2 shares of it in order to drop it to 82. One cell will still remain on 100. As usual, any company at the end of their go, if they have a legal track, must own a train, and it can choose to buy this train either from the bank or from a friendly company. And if there is not enough money, then the company director has to sell shares.